The announcement came at dawn, broadcast across every human settlement, colony, and orbital station. It arrived not with alarms or urgency, but with an eerie calm. An official transmission from the Galactic Concord, the governing body of over 300 intelligent species. For the preservation of interstellar peace, the message declared, each civilization will participate in the bonding initiative. At first, no one understood what that meant. Then the details followed. Every participating species would be paired, individual to individual, with members of other races. Not diplomats, not soldiers, ordinary people. The idea was simple, almost absurd. Create peace not through treaties, but through relationships. Companions. Partners. A living bridge between worlds. Humanity, newly admitted into the Concord after decades of cautious observation, was included. The reaction was mixed. Some celebrated it. Others protested. Most just waited. And then 3 days later, assignments were released. I was eating reheated noodles in my cramped apartment when my device chimed. Bonding assignment confirmed. I almost ignored it, but curiosity got the better of me. I tapped the screen. Partner assigned. Designation: Zirathil, Royal Bloodline, Varkesh Dominion. I blinked. Royal Bloodline? That didn't sound like peaceful companion. That sounded like trouble. I scrolled further. Status: classified as high-risk entity. Behavioral note: unstable, aggressive, non-compliant with standard diplomatic conditioning. I nearly dropped my device. High risk? Aggressive? Non-compliant? I checked the global forums. People were already sharing their assignments. My partner is a floating jelly being who sings lullabies. Mine grows flowers out of her skin. She's so sweet. My guy literally apologizes every 5 seconds. Peaceful partners. Calm, gentle, cooperative beings. And then there was me, assigned to something that sounded like it had a body count. 2 days later, I stood at the docking bay of Orbital Station Helios, watching the arrival of Varkesh transport ships. They were nothing like human vessels. Sharp, angular, black as void, predatory. The docking clamps hissed as one of them latched onto the station. Around me, others waited nervously, clutching data pads, gifts, or translation devices. A man beside me whispered, "I heard the Varkesh are warriors." I swallowed. Great. The hatch opened, and silence fell. They didn't walk out. They stalked. Tall figures emerged first, armored, imposing, with glowing eyes and rigid posture. Soldiers, clearly. Then, behind them, she appeared, smaller than the others, but somehow more dangerous. Her hair, if it could be called that, flowed like strands of silver flame. Her eyes burned with a deep violet glow. Her skin was pale, almost luminous, marked with faint, shifting patterns that looked like living tattoos. She wore no armor, only a dark, fitted garment that moved like liquid around her form. But it wasn't her appearance that froze me. It was her expression. Bored, annoyed, and underneath it all something wild, like a storm waiting to break. One of the Varkesh soldiers stepped forward and spoke in a harsh, clicking language. My translator struggled, then caught up. Princess Zirathil has arrived. Who is the assigned human? Every instinct I had told me to stay quiet, to pretend I wasn't here. But my device vibrated again. Approach your partner. I sighed. Of course. I raised my hand. I am. Every head turned toward me, including hers. Her gaze locked onto mine, and something changed. Interest. Sharp, immediate, unsettling interest. She tilted her head, studying me like I was a puzzle or prey. The soldiers escorted her forward, but she brushed past them with visible irritation. I do not require escort, she said, her voice smooth but edged with something dangerous. Then she stopped in front of me. Up close, she was even more intense. You, she said. Not a question. A statement. I forced a smile. Hi. She narrowed her eyes. Explain. Explain what? Why I've been given. She gestured vaguely at me. This. I blinked. This. She stepped closer. You are not a warrior. Not a diplomat. Not even particularly impressive by your species standards.
Ouch.
Thanks, I muttered. Her eyes flashed. I did not intend insult. Only observation. Still insulting. She considered that. Then your species is overly sensitive. I sighed. This was going to be a long partnership. The first week was chaos. While others bonded over shared meals, peaceful walks, and cultural exchanges, my life turned into a constant exercise in damage control. Zyra, she insisted I use a shortened version of her name, did not understand the concept of peaceful behavior. She questioned everything. Rules, social norms, personal space. On our first day in the city, she challenged a security drone to combat because it looked at her incorrectly. On the second day, she dismantled a public transport system because it was inefficient. On the third day,
well,
let's just say the authorities started recognizing me on sight. Please control your partner, they'd say. Like I had any control. One evening, after a particularly exhausting day, I found her standing on the balcony of our assigned residence, staring out at the city lights. For once, she was quiet. I approached cautiously. You're not trying to fight anything tonight? She didn't turn. I am thinking. That was new.
About what?
She was silent for a long moment. Then, this initiative, she said. It is flawed. Yeah, I noticed. No, she said, finally looking at me. Not because of incompetence. Because of misunderstanding. I frowned. What do you mean? She stepped closer. Your species believes peace is the absence of conflict. Isn't it? She shook her head.
No.
Peace is understanding conflict. I crossed my arms. Okay, that sounds like something wise, but also confusing. Her lips twitched slightly. Your people paired you with gentle beings, creatures who would not challenge you. Yeah, and you're the opposite. Yes. So, why me? She studied me again. That same intense gaze. Because you do not fear me. I opened my mouth to argue, then stopped. Was she right? I mean, sure, she terrified me at first. But I hadn't run. I hadn't refused. I hadn't tried to escape the assignment. I'd stayed. Dealt with her chaos. Talked back to her even. Huh? I said. I do fear you, I admitted. Just not enough to leave. Her expression softened. Just slightly. Exactly. Over time, things began to change. Not all at once. Not dramatically. But gradually. She still caused problems, but fewer. She still challenged authority, but with more restraint. And sometimes, she listened. One night, I introduced her to music. Human music. She was skeptical at first. This is organized sound. Yeah, I said. That's kind of the point. She tilted her head as the melody played. Why? Why what? Why does it affect me? I smiled. Because it's not just sound. It's emotion. She was quiet for a long time after that. Another time, she asked about laughter. Why do you make that noise when nothing is funny? It is funny. It is not. It is to me. She frowned. Explain humor. I tried. I failed. She ended up laughing anyway. A sharp, sudden sound that startled both of us. She looked almost surprised. That was involuntary. Yeah, I said, grinning. That's how it works. But the real change came the day everything went wrong. It started with a message. Urgent. Encrypted. From the Galactic Concord. Varkesh Dominion has rejected the bonding initiative. All Varkesh participants are to be recalled immediately. I read it twice. Then I looked at Zaira. She had already seen it. Her expression was unreadable. They are calling you back, I said. Yes. And she didn't answer. Instead, she walked past me, heading toward the door. Wait, I said. Where are you going? To prepare. For what? She paused. Then, for war. Everything spiraled after that. The news spread quickly. The Varkesh had never truly accepted the initiative. They had participated out of obligation, not belief. And now, they were pulling out. Hard. Other species began mobilizing. Tensions rose. And just like that, the fragile peace began to crack. I found her later, standing in the training hall. She had acquired weapons. Of course she had. You're really going back? I asked. She didn't look at me. Yes. To fight. Yes. I clenched my fists. After everything? That made her turn. What do you mean? This, I said, gesturing between us. This whole thing. It meant nothing to you. Her eyes flashed. It meant everything. Then why go back? Because it is my duty. Duty to what? I snapped. A system that doesn't care about peace? A system that is my home. I shook my head. You've changed, I said. You're not the same as when you arrived. Nor are you. Then stay. The words hung in the air. She went still. That is not possible. Why not? Because I am Varkesh. And I'm human. So what? So, everything. Silence stretched between us. Then she stepped closer. Do you know why I was chosen for this assignment? She asked. Because you're high risk? She almost smiled. No. Because I am uncontrollable. Yeah, I noticed. But here, she said softly, I was controlled. I blinked. What? Not by force. Not by fear. She met my eyes. By you. I shook my head. I didn't control you. You did, she said. You challenged me. Questioned me. Understood me. Her voice dropped. You saw me. Something in my chest tightened. And now? I asked. She hesitated. For the first time, she said, I do not wish to return. Hope flared. Then don't, I said. It is not that simple. Make it simple. She laughed softly. You humans always believing things can be changed. They can. Not always. Try. Another silence. Longer this time. Then, alarms blared. The station shook. And everything changed. Emergency alert. The system announced. Varkesh fleet has entered orbit. Defensive measures engaged. I froze. They're here already? Zaira's expression hardened. Yes. Are they attacking? She listened for a moment. Then, yes. Panic erupted across the station. People ran. Systems failed. And outside, through the viewport, war began. I looked at her. What do we do? She didn't hesitate. We stop it. I stared. How? She met my gaze. By doing what your species does best. And what's that? She smiled. Something impossible. What followed was the most insane plan I had ever been part of. We hijacked a communication array, fought through security, nearly got arrested twice, and somehow, we reached the Varkesh flagship. Zaira stepped forward, activating the transmission. This is Princess Zyrathil of the Varkesh Dominion. The chaos paused. Cease your attack. A voice responded.
Deep.
Authoritative. You have been compromised. Return immediately.
No.
Silence. You defy your people? I protect them. You protect humans. I protect peace. The tension was unbearable. Then, what has changed you? Zyra glanced at me, then back at the transmission. Understanding. There was a long pause. Then, prove it. She took a breath.
And began to speak.
Not as a warrior. Not as a princess. But as someone who had learned about humans, about connection, about the strange, unpredictable, stubborn nature of a species that refused to give up on peace. When she finished, silence. Then, the Varkesh fleet powered down. The war stopped.
Just like that.
Days later, the Concorde declared the bonding initiative a success. Not because it was perfect, but because it worked. As for me, I stood once again in the docking bay, watching as ships prepared to depart. Zyra stood beside me. So, I said, what now? She looked at me. For the first time, she said, I choose my own path. And she smiled. I believe. I will stay. The galaxy did not change overnight. Peace never does. Even after the Varkesh fleet powered down and retreated from immediate conflict, the tension lingered like a storm that had passed, but left the sky uneasy and heavy. Ships remained in orbit. Weapons stayed charged. Trust was fragile. In the days that followed, the Galactic Concorde moved quickly. Emergency summits were called. Delegates argued across star systems. Entire civilizations demanded explanations. How did one unstable Varkesh princess stop a war? Why did the Dominion hesitate? What did the humans do? No one had a clear answer. Except we did. Zyra and I were summoned to speak before the Concorde itself. Not as representatives. Not as diplomats. But as evidence. The chamber was massive, an orbiting structure filled with beings of every imaginable form. Some floated. Some glowed. Some existed as shifting masses of energy. And at the center of it all, two individuals stood side by side. A human and a so-called wild alien princess. Explain, one of the Concorde elders said. Their voice echoed through the chamber, not loud, but impossibly present. Zyra stepped forward, and for the first time since I had met her, she bowed. Not out of tradition, not out of duty, but out of choice. You seek logic, she began. You believe peace is engineered, constructed through balance, power, and negotiation. She paused, scanning the room. You are wrong. Murmurs rippled across the chamber. I crossed my arms.
Yep.
That sounded like her. Peace, she continued, is not the absence of conflict. I blinked. She glanced at me, just for a second, then back to the assembly. It is the willingness to face conflict and not destroy each other because of it. Silence fell. They paired your people with gentle beings, she said, her tone sharpening. Creatures who would not challenge you, who would not force you to grow. A few delegates shifted uncomfortably. But humanity, she said, and now her voice softened slightly, was not meant for that. She turned fully toward them. They gave me a human not because he was strong or important or exceptional. Hey, rude. But because he was stubborn. Okay, fair. He argued with me. I nodded. Constantly. Also true. He did not obey. He did not fear me enough to submit, but not so little that he dismissed me. Her voice dropped. He stayed. There was a weight to that word.
Stayed.
Not fought. Not conquered. Not commanded.
Stayed.
He showed me something my people had forgotten, she said. That power is not proven through domination. Her eyes met mine, but through restraint. The chamber fell into absolute silence. No movement, no whispers, just stillness. And now, she said, straightening, you ask why the Varkesh fleet stood down. Her voice became sharp again, royal, commanding. It is because I ordered it.
Gasps.
Shock rippled outward. You overrode your command structure? One of the elders demanded. Yes. You defied your dominion. Yes. And they obeyed? She lifted her chin. I am their future. That explained a lot. But understand this, she added. I did not stop the war because I was commanded to. She looked around the chamber. I stopped it because I chose to. And there it was. The thing no one had expected.
Choice.
The Concorde didn't respond immediately. How could they? This wasn't part of their models. Their predictions. Their carefully constructed systems. Finally, one of the elders spoke. Then what do you propose? Zyra didn't hesitate. End the illusion. The elder tilted slightly. Clarify. Stop pairing species based on comfort, she said. Stop avoiding conflict. Stop pretending peace comes from ease. She gestured outward. Pair opposites. Pair challengers. Pair those who will clash, who will struggle, who will not understand each other at first. Her voice grew stronger. Because that is where understanding is born. The chamber was utterly still. No one interrupted. No one argued. Because deep down, they knew she was right. Then, unexpectedly, all eyes turned to me. Human, one of the elders said. I blinked. Yeah. You have heard her perspective. What is yours? I scratched the back of my neck.
Right.
No pressure. Just address a council of galactic leaders. I glanced at Zyra. She gave me a look. Not commanding. Not demanding. Just trusting.
So I took a breath.
And spoke. She's terrifying, I said. A few delegates flinched. Zyra smirked slightly. When I got assigned to her, I continued. I thought it was a mistake. I paced slowly. Everyone else got peaceful partners. Easy connections. No risk. I shrugged. And I got her. A ripple of quiet amusement passed through the chamber. But here's the thing, I said. They didn't change. I gestured outward. All those perfect pairings? They stayed exactly the same. Then I tapped my chest. But we didn't. I looked at Zyra. She challenged everything I thought I knew. Then back at the chamber. And I guess I did the same to her. I paused. Then smiled slightly. Peace isn't about finding someone who's easy to live with. I shook my head. It's about choosing to live with someone who isn't. Silence.
Deep.
Resonant. And if you can do that, I added, then maybe you don't need war at all. For a long time, no one spoke. Then, slowly, one by one, the elders lowered themselves. A gesture of acknowledgement, of acceptance. The bonding initiative was rewritten that day. Not abandoned.
Evolved.
And as for us, weeks later, life had settled. Not normal, never normal, but stable. The city had mostly forgiven us. Mostly. There were still a few places we weren't allowed back into. Okay, a lot of places. Zyra stood once again on the balcony, looking out over the skyline. But this time, she wasn't alone in her thoughts. They are watching, she said. Who? The galaxy. I nodded.
Yeah.
No pressure. She was quiet for a moment. Then, they expect something from us. Of course they do, I said. We kind of stopped a war. She turned to me. And, what do you expect?
I thought about that. For a long time.
Finally, I shrugged. I don't know, I admitted. Maybe we just keep doing what we've been doing. And what is that? I smiled. Figuring things out. She studied me. Then, for the first time since I'd known her, truly smiled. Not sharp. Not dangerous. Just real. That, she said softly, is acceptable. The wind moved gently through the city. Lights flickered in the distance. And for once, there was no tension in the air. Not because the galaxy had become perfect, but because it had learned something new. That peace wasn't fragile. It wasn't passive. It wasn't something you protected by avoiding conflict. It was something you built with the people who challenged you the most. Everyone else got peaceful partners. Safe ones. Easy ones.
But me?
I got the wild alien princess. And, in the end,
She didn't just change me.
she didn't just change herself.